He is my Lord, birth after birth. Your masters, the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, Lord and master of the lowlies. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Jai Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Before I start the class, I have a Madhava Punjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Gopi Janavallabha Abby, you want to pass out these sweets so
Sure.
treat people here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So like I guess for you passing them out, you can come. Is there 7? No, 6. You come on back, I'll give you one of these.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatyam Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat. I put this food here. Thank you. Nasta Preshu Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. So we're reading from the 3rd canto, 4th chapter. Vidura approaches Maitreya, text number 3. Bhagavan Swatma Mayaya Bhagavan Swatma Mayaya Gatyam Tam Avalokya Saha Gatyam Tam Avalokya Saha Sarasvatyam Upaspritya Sarasvatyam Upaspritya Vriksha Moolam Upavishat Vriksha Moolam Upavriksha Bhagavan Swatma Mayaya Gatyam Tam Avalokya Saha Saraswatyam Upaspritya Vriksha Moolam Upavishat Bhagavan Swatma Mayaya Gatyam Tam Avalokya Saha Sarasvatyam Upaspritya Vriksha Moolam Upavishat Bhagavan Swatma Mayaya Gatyam Tam Avalokya Saha Sarasvatyam Upaspritya Vriksha Moolam Upavishat
Bhagavan Swatma Mayaya
Bhagavan Swatma Mayaya
Gatyam Tam Avalokya Saha
Gatyam Tam Avalokya Saha
Saraswatyam Upaspritya
Sarasvatyam Upaspritya
Vriksha Moolam Upavishat
Vriksha Moolam Upavishat
Bhagavan Swatma Mayaya
Bhagavan Swatma Mayaya
Gatyam Tam Avalokya Saha
Gatyam Tam Avalokya Saha
Saraswatyam Upaspritya
Sarasvatyam Upaspritya
Vriksha Moolam Upavishat
Vriksha Moolam Upavishat
Bhagavan Swatma Mayaya
Bhagavan Swatma Mayaya Gatyam Tam Avalokya Saha Sarasvatyam Upaspritya Vriksha Moolam Upavishat
Bhagavan
Bhagavan Swatmamayaya Gatyam Tam Avalokyasaha Saraswatyam Upaskrishya Vrikshamulam Upaskrishya. Anyone else? Okay, word for word, Bhagavan,
Bhagavan,
personality of Godhead.
personality of Godhead.
Swatma Mayaya,
Svatma Maya,
by his internal potency.
by his internal potencies.
Gatim,
Gatim,
the end.
the end.
Tam,
Tam,
that.
that.
Avalokya,
Avalokya,
foreseeing.
foreseeing.
Saha,
Saha,
he, Krishna.
he Krishna.
Sarasvatim,
Saraswati,
the river Saraswati.
the river Saraswati.
Upaspritya,
Vaskrisha,
after sipping water.
after sipping water.
Vriksha,
Vriksha,
Mulam,
Ulam,
at the foot of a tree.
at the foot of a tree.
Upavishad,
Upavisha,
set down.
set down.
Translation, please repeat. The personality of Godhead,
Personality of Godhead.
Lord Sri Krishna,
Lord Sri Krishna,
after foreseeing the end
after foreseeing the end
of his family
of his family,
by his internal potency,
by his internal potency,
went to the bank of the river Saraswati,
went to the bank of the river Saraswati,
sipped water,
sipped water,
and sat down underneath a tree.
and sat down underneath the tree.
Srila Prabhupada's divine purport. All the above mentioned activities of the Yadus and Bhojas were executed by the internal potency of the Lord because he wanted them to be dispatched to their respective abodes after he had finished his mission of descent. They were all his sons and grandsons and were given complete protection by the parental affection of the Lord. How they could be vanquished in the presence of the Lord is answered in this verse. Everything was done by the Lord himself. Swatmamayaya. The Lord's family members were either incarnations of his planetary expansions or demigods from the heavenly planets. And thus, before his departure, he separated them by his internal potency. Before being dispatched to their respective abodes, they were sent to the holy place of Prabhasha, where they performed pious activities and took food and drink to their heart's content. It was then arranged for them to be sent back to their abode so that others could see that the powerful Yadu dynasty was no longer in the world. In the previous verse, the word anujanta, I guess that's practically messed that up, but just A-N-U-J with an N with a slash over it, A-T-A. Indicating that the whole sequence of events was arranged by the Lord is significant. These particular pastimes of the Lord are not a manifestation of his external energy or material nature. Such an exhibition of his internal potency is eternal, and therefore one should not conclude that the Yadus and Bhojas died in a drunken state in an ordinary fratricidal war. Srila Jiva Goswami comments on these incidences. His magical performances. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the third verse of the fourth chapter, third canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. Vidura approaches Maitreya. Srila Prabhupada Ki. I offer my humble and respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, who is opening our eyes with the torch of knowledge. When will Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within the material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give us shelter under His lotus feet? So, here again we hear how the Lord, His activities are different from our activities or the ordinary people in the world's activities. In the world, everyone is forced to act, and in the conditioned state, we're forced to act by the Lord's Mahamaya, or the energy that is composed of the three gunas of Satya, goodness, Rajas, passion, and Tamas, darkness. So those energies move every living being, just like the pieces on a chessboard. We're all simply performers, actors, servants, in the Lord's drama or play. And the conditioned souls, they have to continually come back to these plays and the wheel of samsara and the cycle of birth and death. And the Lord's not always there. So when the Lord's not there, it's just the world of karma, the world of action and reaction. Depending on your good deeds, you get some good results. Depending on your bad deeds, you get some bad results. And of course, there's that mixture in between, sort of good, sort of bad. And it's a continual revolution, very systematically ordered, just like the seasons go around every year. So the cycle of ages go around, many of them within the day of the topmost being in the universe, Brahma, the engineer of the universe. And so one of those seasons in the Kali Yuga is very, very dark. It's like a very, very dim winter season with many storms. So in the Kali Yuga, most of the time the Lord and powerful representatives of Him simply are not present. And you have a lot of fighting. The age is divided into 12 parts, 36,000 years each. And we're only in the very first part, 5,000 years into it. And we're blessed because, you know, the Lord or His representative has been here. The Lord has come Himself to create this Sankirtan movement and the recitation of the Bhagavatam. And people can easily get out of the wheel of samsara and become an internal player or a player in the Lord's pastimes in the spiritual world. And when they come here, they can be like members of the Yadu dynasty. They can take part in the Lord's pastimes directly with Him and always be aloof from the material gunas. We can be elevated to that position. That is the real gold of human life and what is really going on, that a soul in a human body has the opportunity to join the Lord. That's what it means by yoga, to join the Lord. We can join Him again. And that's how our life should be directed, to join Krishna, rather than just continue to take part in the wheel of karma. We got a body this time based on our karma. And, you know, whatever we earn, you know, we're going to play that role in this life. And then we have to, you know, again accept what our next birth will be, you know, based on what we do in this life. But one can get out of being one of these ordinary pawns on the chessboard of material life and become an internal player in Krishna's pastimes where you get to be one of these members of the powerful Yadu dynasty, or you get to be one of these cowherd boys or cowherd girls or cowherd men, cowherd women in Krishna's abode of Vrindavan. You know, we get to play a dramatic part with a spiritual body rather than a material body based on our karma. You know, as we see our friend Sok, you know, he's suffering so much in one of these types of bodies. And everybody has their story, no matter how young we are, how much, you know, we suffer in this type of body. We can, you know, just look at our families, how much everyone has suffered, you know, either physical or mental health, you know, dental health. I mean, it all depends on one's karma. It's just a world of misery, is taught by Lord Krishna, from the highest planet to the lowest planet. All the places of misery where repeated birth and death takes place. And we're forced to continually repeat it because we're enjoying it to some degree. We remain attached and force ourselves to come back for, as Prabhupada calls it, more of chewing the chewed. The same old thing again and again, simply because we're so ignorant of our real position that we can, again, that's what the opportunity of this life is for. That's what Srila Prabhupada is trying to drum into the people of the world. That, hey, you have a chance to rejoin the Lord. You know, big education, just to become a technician or whatever, isn't really so important. What's important is to join the Lord. And it's easily done. Just have to join the Sankirtan movement. And just like this Yadu dynasty cannot be recognized by everyone, they seem to be doing the same thing. They seem to even be dying like ordinary people die. You know, maybe it's a dramatic death, a big fratricidal war. I mean, those things aren't so unfamiliar. You know, in America, of course, we had the huge fratricidal civil war in the past couple of centuries ago, where people were simply fighting against one another in the same country, many in the direct same families, all for political and economic reasons. And so much suffering because of it. Here we see, every day we see people dying from being in a drunken state, either due to opiates or alcohol or so many other forms of intoxication. You know, every day it's happening. Here we have a whole dynasty that appeared to have been gotten drunk and in one evening slaughtered one another in a drunken state. You know, just like in a cowboy movie where they're all sitting around the barroom drinking, and what happens, a big brawl breaks out and they're throwing chairs and bottles and killing one another in a drunken state. This quite commonly happens. So, you know, it appears that the Yadu dynasty died like that. But here Srila Prabhupada is teaching us that no, we should never think that. This is all arranged by the Lord. This was an arrangement for them to go back home to Godhead. Y'all think about different arrangements of the Lord that are completely supernatural. He uses this word at the end. These were magical performances. So just think of some other magical performance. I'm going to give one right now, and then you can raise your hand if you can think of another that's absolutely magical. It may appear to be something of the material world, but it's not. Or it may appear completely beyond the material world. But here's one example, just as drastic as this example of the Yadu dynasty, just as drastic. They died in a drunken brawl. But they didn't just die, it was how they were returning to their abode. And either the heavenly planets or the spiritual planets. That was just their, what do they call it, that portal. Portals just aren't some hole that appears in space that people enter into, you know, like on the movies, and you go into some other world. You know, a portal will be maybe at the time of death, where one appears to be doing something, like even we'll see Lord Krishna appeared to be just sitting there and shot by an arrow. But the portal was he was going back to his abode. So the Yadus are going back to their abode through this portal of death. You know, they're not being carried away by the Yamadutas. You know, but they're simply ascending to higher realm. A very beautiful example of that is when Balaram left, he simply, as we were hearing this morning in the Chaitanya Charanamrita, he simply expanded his Seshanag from his mouth and rode away on him. Like we see movies of people riding away on a dragon. He simply rode away on Seshanag. So the magical performance that I'm remembering, that probably people have already thought of, it's obvious to those who have studied the Bhagavatam, is Sanat... I can't even pronounce his name right now. Santanu and his wife, who is the incarnation of Mother Ganga. In fact, I guess that's what she was called, Ganga. I'm not sure if she was called Ganga. But anyway, she appeared like an ordinary queen in one sense, but she was not an ordinary queen. She was the goddess Ganga that had to come to earth for what reason, I can't remember. But she had to bear the children. Maybe that was why she had to come to earth, to bear these children that had been cursed for stealing one Rishi's sacred cow. And they had to take birth in the material world. So they pleaded with the Rishi to please make that birth very short. They didn't want to come here to play a role as a human being. This is like a very bad part. This is like, you know, getting the part of some villain that is, you know, just, you know, defeated by so many devas or good persons in the world. You know, you always have to play the role of person being defeated. So, you know, human being is not a really great role, and so they wanted to get out as soon as possible. So the magical performance here was that every time Ganga gave birth, I believe it was perhaps 7 births, right before her husband's eyes, she would leave where she had the child. She would walk to the river Ganges, and throw the child in the river. And the king would just look at her and couldn't say anything because he had taken a vow that he would never question her actions. And if he did, she would immediately leave because she was not a being of this world. She's a celestial being. So she doesn't have to be here. You know, the king became attracted to her, fell in love with her, and she obliged him. And she gave birth to his children, but here she was. She was murdering the children. Talk about child abuse. She was throwing the children in the river Ganga right after birth. And the king couldn't understand. When he finally questioned her on the 8th child, she immediately said, well, now's my time to go. This child will live on this planet for a very long time. But first he'll come with me to the celestial worlds and train up under Brihaspati and others. You know, and come back here to be a great protector in the world. He'll learn all the celestial weapons and, you know, will be undefeatable on this earth. And so that became Bhishma. And the story behind the children was that those were those celestial beings who were cursed by the Rishi and who didn't want to have to stay in the world long. So they took their birth and their mother drowned them in the Ganga and they returned to their position in the celestial world. I got another example, but I'll give everyone else a chance if you can think of one. A magical display like this that may appear to be ordinary or something super ordinary like what Ganga was doing appear to be criminal, but yet it's not.
First of all, that's from Mahabharata, not in Bhagavatam.
It might be in the Bhagavatam, that story. Research it on the database or something. That's a common story. And I'm sure we heard it before the Mahabharata, you know, just translate it.
Well, I always thought it was, I mean, there's everything practically, but just this one where Siddhartha Vipra goes to see the the Lord and doesn't ask for anything. And then somehow or other, nobody can explain why, when he came back, where his residence was, it was like a heavenly planet. It was transformed. Just because Krishna willed it.
Wow.
This was like when I learned recently. I learned a little bit about Lord Chaitanya on first canto Srimad, part 1, and it was sort of like a brief summarization of his childhood and his pastimes, and sort of this, the paranormal, of what happened, and so sort of how this Brahmana, as a baby, when Lord Chaitanya was a baby, this Brahmana, would offer food to the deities, and the first time he offered, Lord Chaitanya's baby began to eat the food, because lo and behold, that's actually Krishna, so he's like, okay, I'm going to indulge in what you offered me, but the Brahmin, he's upset, so they take the baby away, so he does it again, and Lord Chaitanya comes and eats it again. This happens multiple times, so the Brahmana has to wait until nighttime to offer the food to the deities because the baby keeps eating the food, so they put Lord Chaitanya to bed, and so the Brahmana eventually offered food around midnight, and so Lord Chaitanya comes back again and eats the food that he's offered, and so the Brahmana is just completely over and just breaks down and cries, and Lord Chaitanya, out of mercy, reveals himself in his Vishnu form, I believe the forearm Vishnu form, and that's just amazing. I didn't really know much about Lord Chaitanya at all, so that was when I was reading it, I'm just like, wow, just seeing him 500 years ago in Kali Yuga, revealing himself in his potent Vishnu form.
Amazing.
Great story.
Yeah, and Lord Chaitanya or Krishna then said, you were calling me to come eat, so I came. Something like that.
You got one Lakshmi to sing? Yeah, I did mention that yesterday as well. So, talking about Krishna's potency to bewilder people, to especially cause them to kill each other. So this also comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Madhya Leela. So Mahaprabhu was in the South India Yatra, and he was in the state of Kerala, and there were some nomads. Their name were Bhattadris, and they somehow trapped his servant. Mani trapped his servant, and then so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was looking for his servant, so he was kept captive in one place, and then he was going to rescue him. And then these Bhattadris took this chance to attack Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they all came with sharp weapons to kill him. So while they were doing that, so they could see Mahaprabhu each other. And they were all bewildered, and then they started killing each other. And then they all died that way. So then he rescued his servant. So that was another incident of Krishna using his bewildering potency to mislead the miscreants. And not himself taking any weapon, but getting them all killed. Someone else?
What's the story if it came with Lord Chaitanya with the Buddhists, where they were trying to feed him some forbidden food, and then a bird picks up the plate and drops it on the monk's head.
Yeah.
Does it kill it? Does it kill him?
No.
Knocks him out. Knocks sense into him.
Yeah, I think they pleaded with Lord Chaitanya, his disciples, and Lord Chaitanya saved him.
He also, Srivasa's son passed away during kirtan. Lord Chaitanya was very upset you didn't tell me. But we didn't want to interfere with the kirtan. So then he goes to the dead body of the son and asks him, why have you left the house of Srivasa full? Your parents left. Why have you left the house of your father? And then he comes back
another one, a good one. How about the killing of Abhimanyu? Why did that happen? Arjuna's son, Krishna's there,
Yeah.
and the Kauravas, slew him unjustly. Why? Well, again, that son is, in his previous life, is the son of the moon god, Somadev. And Somadev didn't want him to leave very long, very attached to him. So it was arranged that he would come, play the role of Abhimanyu. At 16 years of age, he'll die on the battlefield and be renowned as the most courageous of warriors. So in that way he could rejoin the moon god very quickly.
Well, Krishna invested all his potencies within his holy name. So simply by saying his name, chanting or singing, you associate with him personally. He dances on your tongue.
Hare Krishna.
Jai. So we have the example of Valmiki, who was a serial killer, a murderer, would murder people, travelers, and take all their goods, and this way he made his living. So Narada Muni enticed him to chant the name of Ram in a tricky way, and by just chanting the name of Ram, he became the great sage Valmiki, just by the potency of the holy name.
What about Mugari too, I guess, the hunter?
Yeah,
Even though
Mugari
it
the
was
hunter, huh?
Such a horrible situation, he was doing half killing the animals, but due to not
The instructions of Nara, yeah.
Didn't even want to step on those ants.
And then we have Haridas Thakur converting the prostitute into a pure devotee just by hearing the holy name.
Yeah, and also Maya Devi herself came and tried to seduce him, and he wasn't seduced. But I think the most important miracle for us is that Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, the Parampara, empowered his divine grace of Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada at a very advanced age to go across the Atlantic Ocean with no funds, with no connections, knowing no one or anything about this place, just on faith. And that is, this instruction was given by the Parampara and spiritual master that it would, whatever he did would be successful. It was miraculous. It is miraculous.
Yeah, that's a wonderful example that we can all practically touch. All just recently happened.
The development of Manipur. There's a letter back in 1972. I remember it really struck me when I read it. I was in Virginia Beach at the time. And because these letters were sent around. So they were like, little, maybe you call now podcasts or something. Prabhupada said, he was to Bhavananda and Jayapataka Maharaj, said, I have given you the spiritual world. Now develop it. And we see what's happening. Bhaktivinoda had a vision of a temple with all the peoples of the world, and specifically in one of his writings, he mentions Europeans, Americans, and Russians will be chanting and dancing together. I just find it very curious.
And he wrote that before the Cold War.
yeah, it was in
You know,
the
before Russia was
70s or whatever.
the power it was in America. At that time, you know, Britain was the major power in the world.
Actually, at that point, Russia and America had a fairly decent relationship. We had helped them in some other problem with, I think the Chinese or something. And and we had bought Alaska from them earlier than that. But they were nothing, really. In the 1800s, they weren't. That wasn't even the point where the Tsar lost power. They were just, you know, whatever. You have to have that vision.
All right, besides the most important factor of learning about Krishna, another important feature in Prabhupada's purport in this verse is Prabhupada's instruction to avoid intoxication. You know, we can easily tell many stories of what happens to those of us who become habituated to it, how it can just destroy a person's life. Here we see that Lord Krishna utilized intoxication to take away his family from the planet Earth. You know, we should see Prabhupada's instructions as wonderfully liberating. You know, Prabhupada said, avoid intoxication. Avoid, you know, meat eating, gambling, intoxication, and illicit sexual activity. And these factors is, you know, what makes a person, you know, a decent human being. Otherwise, to become habituated to these things can cause disaster. All right, is it what time now? We don't have a clock there anymore. Anybody got a watch or something like that?
8:20.
Oh, it's late. It's beyond our time. So we have to stop. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Krishna.
That's not a coat. This,
That's like one of them.
this is a coat.